Welcome to Tech in the Car. This is a new Citroen e-C4 electric car. This video I'm going to test the range to see how far it goes. If you have any questions, please comment down below and please consider subscribing. It's free. Big thank you to Wilmoths Citroen Eastbourne. As I start this journey, I've got 186 miles of range. As I've already said, it's a nice day today. It's not cold, it's not hot, so it should be really good conditions for the battery to get a really good range. And we're going to drive about 60 miles or so north of here and then 60 miles back again, so all in all around 120 miles. And we'll see, we should have at the end of that roughly 50 to 60 miles left, depending on how the journey goes, traffic and other variables. I've been driving about 5 to 10 minutes through the town and I've used about 3 miles of range. I've probably covered about 1.5 miles, I think, in total. So it's dropped off a tiny bit, but there's still a long way to go. And the way that petrol cars normally perform is once you get on a long straight bit of road, like a motorway, which I'm going to go on, you generally get better economy than you do in the town in traffic. So it'd be interesting to see if that happens here as we progress on our range test journey. So what are the rules for this journey? I'm going to drive this car like I would drive my own car. My own car is a petrol engine car. It's got a very inefficient petrol engine, so I'm really looking forward to driving a car which should be really efficient. If I was to make this same journey in my Audi RS3, then I would need to put about 30 pounds worth of petrol in the car, and that's driving it with a cruise control on when we're on motorways or straight roads, and not accelerating fast, not driving fast, just driving in a very considerate and fuel efficient manner. That's generally how I like to drive. Obviously, if you drive like me, then this test will be a really good opportunity to see what this car would be like being driven under those conditions. If you drive more aggressively, then you should probably expect slightly less range from the car than if you're driving like me. Even right now, still in the town, I've got the cruise control on and I'm letting it do the braking and the stopping for me. And of course, one of the great things about this car is that it has all the latest safety features. In this trim, which is the Sense trim of the Citroen e-C4, we have the head-up display, we've got the digital driver's cockpit, which all the cars have, we've got this really good, clear 10-inch widescreen infotainment display, which allows me to use Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but also I can use the inbuilt navigation from Citroen as well. You've got your new electric car, and you might be wondering, how do you find the electric charging points? How do you know where they are? Obviously, you can do it on Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, but it is built into the Citroen navigation system as well, and it's very simple to use. You just make sure, if you're on the home screen, click on navigation, and then it will bring up the map. Click on the menu button down in the corner, and then it will show you various options: enter address, destinations, points of interest search. Click on points of interest, and then it will say Citroen at the top. Scroll down until you see electric vehicle station, and it will load up all the electric vehicle stations nearest to you, and then you can tap on them and it will navigate you straight to those locations. This is really handy because it means you don't need to worry about where the nearest charging point is, so you don't have to worry about running out of power and running out of battery. Let's talk about the ride on the Citroen e-C4 again. So we've got the really clever suspension system that Citroen have put on the e-C4, the progressive hydraulic cushion system, and I'm driving over some really bumpy road now. These potholes are massive I'm going over now. You may or may not be able to hear them, and this car's able to handle them really, really easily. The extra ride height that you get and the really good suspension means that there really isn't much issue here going over them, and I'm not worried about the ride. And it's a really good feature of the comfort levels of this Citroen e-C4 and the C4 in general, which all have this same suspension system. Let's have an update on the journey. We've driven 15 miles and we've got 177 miles of range left. We started at 186. So we've driven 15 miles in reality, and the range has just dropped by 9 miles. So we've done basically 6 extra miles, which haven't been taken into consideration yet. So that's good. We're showing really good efficiency right now from this car and from the range. We'll keep an eye on it, obviously, as the video goes. Now let's talk about this car. This is the e-C4. It's got a 50 kilowatt battery. It's able to charge at 100 kilowatts, and it's rated for a WLTP range of 217 miles. So on a full charge, it should be able to do 217 miles. You can charge it from 0 to 80% in 30 minutes on a rapid charger, and overnight using a wall box, it will take about 7 hours to charge. There is a full review of this car, the tech inside it, and the infotainment system on the channel, so make sure you check it out. And if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button. Inside this car, we have an amazing interior, which I love. It feels really premium, really high quality, and you know, there's no doubt here that there's loads of space. I've mentioned in previous videos how I love the fact there's room for my phone to sit on the charging shelf here. This is my first ever drive in an electric car going outside of my own town. So this is really interesting for me. I've driven plenty of electric cars on this channel, but I've never driven them very far. So this is my first time doing that. So this is really, really interesting to me personally, and hopefully for everyone who's watching here on the channel as well, but even for me, just to see how far this car will go and what it is like. And that's what I want to bring to everybody who watches the channel. So I've driven 40 miles now. It's telling me there's 93 miles of range left. I'm currently, according to the car, doing 3.2 miles per kilowatt. And I've got, as I said, I've got around 90 miles left to go. Let's talk a bit about this car's performance. It can do 0 to 60 in 9.7 seconds. It's got a 134 horsepower electric motor, and it feels really nippy. It's got plenty of torque, being an electric car, and when you press a pedal, it just goes. There's no doubt about it being a very, very fast feeling car, and you wouldn't have any issues on the motorway like I am on now, or indeed in traffic. So when driving, let's have a look at the electric information on the car. So I press the button down in the middle, which gives you the electric information for the car, and it's telling me I'm in normal mode. So the energy is flowing to the motor at the front of the car. You can see that motor in one of my videos if you check out the playlist on the e-C4. If I go into statistics, you can then see my current usage. You can see I've got 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour, and you can see over the amount of time I've driven different bits of information about how many miles per kilowatt hour you've been doing based on the length of your journey. And as we're progressing along here, currently, as you can tell from looking at the speedometer here, on the right hand side is total mileage of the car. I started at 180 miles, we're now at 229, almost at 230, and we've got 79 miles now left. So time for a pit stop. As you can see by looking at the digital dashboard in front of me, 236 miles total, 180 was what we started with, and then 65 miles of range, so we've done about 56 miles in total. Looking at the electric information in the middle, we have 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour is our average right now for this trip. So that's a little update on here. There are a couple of things which I didn't show you on my infotainment review. Down here we have some extra settings. This is your assistance for your lane assist. This is your heated steering wheel. This doesn't actually do anything. And this is the turning the alarm on and off. And then down here is the head-up display information. This is your brightness. This is closing it down. And this raises and lowers the height of the information which is shown in the head-up display. So if it's too low or too high, you can move it around. That's this area down here. And the other thing too is you can scroll through your trip information by pressing the button on the side of this stalk here. So with that little button, I can go through my trip data and my energy usage. Let's navigate to the nearest point of interest where there's a charge point. So we click on point of interest, and we go down to electric vehicle station, and we're going to take ourselves to Polar, because Polar, from my experience generally, have been the fastest and most reliable system for charging. And let's navigate to there now. And as I start this final part of my journey to charge it, we've got 73 miles left of range, and we started at 180 and we're at 236 miles. So how do you get the regenerative braking working on the e-C4? Down here there's a little B button. Once it's in drive, press the B button. And that's it. Let's see how that drives now. On this, I really like the way they've tuned it. When I take my foot off, it slows down gradually, gradually. And now I'm still going at 18 miles an hour. And now I'm stopped. And I don't know what the distance was there, but it was a gradual stop. Here we are at the BP Pulse charging point. This is a quick charger. I'm now going to charge up the Citroen e-C4 to full before I drive back. We're going to use the app to do this, and it should be quite simple and easy, so let's have a look and see how it's done. Okay, so first thing to do, naturally, is to get the charger. This is a CSS quick charger, or rapid charger I should say. The next thing to do is to plug this in like that. It will click on here, showing it's ready to go. This is now charging on here, so I used the app to do it in the end instead of using the contactless card. It didn't seem to like the contactless card for some reason, but I used the app and now it is charging quite happily. One hour and 15 minutes to a complete charge. So here we go, this is now finished charging. It took 1 hour and 17 seconds, as you can see by looking at that. And it was charging at between, well, for the first up to 70%, it was charging at between 195 and 210 miles an hour. And then it slowed down after 80%, which is kind of what you expect, down to about 99, 100 miles every hour. But either way, it went from where it was, which was about 60%, to 100% in about an hour. Driving back to the dealership now is 57 miles. I've got 202 miles of range. I'm going to drive back now with the regenerative braking on. I didn't use it on the way up, so we'll see if that makes a difference, and we'll see what we end up with in terms of range at the end of the journey when we get back. So I've been driving for 14 miles and I have a range of 175 miles still to go on the remaining battery usage. So I've driven about 14 miles, but the range has gone down about 25 miles. So there's about 10 miles extra range used than I've actually driven. But again, that's to be expected. Real world usage of all cars is going to be slightly less than you anticipate. So I'm in regen braking mode. I've got my cruise control on. Let's check on this again in a little bit and see how we're doing. We've now done about 43 miles. We've got 109 miles of range remaining. And we've got about 13 miles left back to Wilmoths Citroen Eastbourne. Obviously we're going to get back no problems at all. I've got 109 miles left and 12 miles to get back there. So the interesting question will be, with 12 miles left, will it be 12 miles of range that I've used, or will it be more? Let's find out. I'm back at the dealership now. I started off at the BP charging point, which is a rapid charger. When I left, I had 202 miles of range. Now I have 98 miles of range. So I've driven about 56 miles. And the amount of range which I've used is about 104 to 106 miles of range that I've used. So I've got here no problems. Charging on the rapid charger was no problem either. The only thing I would say, and it's obvious with an electric car for everyone that hasn't had one, the first 80% charges a lot more rapidly than the last 80%. So I would probably recommend to anybody that has an electric car or is thinking of buying an electric car to only charge their electric car up to 80% if you're using a rapid charger, because it can do, depending on the speed of the charger, up to 80% in 30 minutes. In my case, when I charged the car, I started at 67% and I charged it to 100%, and it took me 1 hour. That last between 67 and 80% took about 10-15 minutes. The rest of the 80% to 100 took the remaining 45 minutes. So I would say you don't need to worry too much about that last 20%. I would just do it to 80 and it will work fine. As far as paying for the electric charging, I would recommend doing it through the app. The app makes it much easier. It's much more simple to do. Contactless will work on most machines, but the thing with contactless is, and you have to remember this, these machines are outside in the wind and in the rain, and the contactless readers may not work. So whereas the app functionality will work because it's connected through the internet, maybe try and aim for the rapid chargers as a stopping point, because it's going to be quicker and more efficient to do that. And if you don't have a charger at home, that's probably the best way of doing it, and then use the app as you've seen in this video. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, because that really helps with a like. And don't forget to comment if you have any questions down below. And please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost anything, it's free. And you can always change your mind, but it really helps me. Stay safe, everyone. See you in the next video. Thank you very much.